If you're in the field of personal development, leadership development, if you're involved with multi-level marketing, you will have heard the term mindset numerous times. And I've also mentioned it before in previous solo episodes of the podcast. What inspired me though to record a separate episode on the topic of mindset and its importance was to see that it is making its way into the recruitment. Well, I suppose it will be in recruitment anyway, but in employability and employability trainings, there is great emphasis and growing emphasis on mindset as well. So I thought, as I was co-facilitating a workshop on neurodiversity and mindset with my employment coach at Restart in Wolverhampton, I thought I'd record a separate episode on mindset and go a little bit into what exactly is all involved and why it is so important to cultivate a growth mindset, an open mind, a positive outlook on life and on the world, no matter in what state it is in. That's a different topic altogether. But I'm sure there are enough podcasts on that subject already. So let's go into mindset. To start on the subject, I make the differentiation again between brain and mind, even though they are so intrinsically connected. So the brain is the physical, the organ in our body. The mind is the psychological, the thing that you cannot touch. To quickly recap as well, that we have this little bit in our brain that is called the amygdala, which I keep calling our internal warning system, that has warned us of dangers for millennia. And it keeps warning us of dangers no matter if they are real or if they are imagined. The brain does not make any distinction there, and it warns of dangers when it checks with the hippocampus, the area in the brain that is responsible for keeping memories. And if it doesn't find anything in the hippocampus that is anyway similar to past memories or experiences, then the danger shout of the amygdala gets really loud. It is like if you imagine a warning lamp, a bright red warning lamp coming on and flashing. So that's your danger warning, no matter if it's imagined or if it is real. Very often the warnings of danger are happening when we do unfamiliar things, when there is any kind of scary news item, any unforeseen event happening. If we go to new places, if we meet new people, if we have to speak in front of smaller or big crowds. That's one thing that I remember from the workshop co-facilitation, that people are even scared to stand up in front of a small crowd and say their name and where they're from or sharing any interests. Even that could be really scary for a lot of people. And there is a high percentage, I can't remember the percentage, if it's in the 70s or in the 80s, in the percentage that people are scared of public speaking. And sometimes you even get a danger warning if you're speaking about maybe a new topic or in front of a bigger crowd. Even the most experienced public speakers sometimes still get their danger warnings from the amygdala in the brain, and they feel uncomfortable. So when you are doing something new, something different, you will feel uncomfortable because you get this danger warning inside you. And another thing to add about the brain is that everybody's brain works different. It might have similar functions, but everybody's brain works different. And the reasons why everybody's brain works different are, well, the three main reasons are, number one, it could be genetics. There could be some things that we have inherited from past generations, from our parents. I say past generations, I go into further generations because there have been experiments that have shown that generational trauma can be passed on for up to 7 generations. And I sometimes wonder if I do still carry some generational trauma from my mum's side. But that's a different story altogether, because they had to leave the place where they grew up after the Second World War, and they were chased out of their country, had to pack up their stuff within an hour. They were told, pack what you can carry. Within the next hour, you've got to be out of here, and you get transported to a different place, a different country altogether. So that's some past generational trauma from my mum's side. Another thing that influences the difference of how our brains work compared to others is the thoughts and beliefs that we hold about yourself, about other people, and about the world as a whole. Linked to that are as well past positive and negative experiences. So those experiences, they influence how we think about ourselves, about other people and the world, and what we believe about ourselves, about other people, and about the world in general. I think I should add one point with regards to genetics, because it's not just like past generational trauma and so on, why brains work different. It's also any kind of neurological conditions, like the ones that are classed as like neurodiverse. That's conditions like autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, dyslexia, and dyscalculia. It's another one that's difficult to pronounce. Now, if people in the neurodiversity field, they will probably say, yeah, it's only those that are to be considered neurodiverse. But I'm arguing that everybody is neurodiverse because everybody's brain works different, even though they are considered to have, in quotes, normal working brains, whatever normal is anyway. So I would class everybody as neurodiverse, whereas some in the field of neurodiversity and working with people that have these conditions like autism, ADHD and so on, they might still insist that it's only them. So there might be a little, controversy, or maybe not. That could also mean that everybody has a different mindset. Not everyone's mindset is exactly the same due to any kind of genetic conditions that there might be, or conditions like the neurodiverse ones, autism, ADHD and so on, along with different thoughts and beliefs about oneself, other people and the world in general. Then the past experiences, being they positive or negative, and there could be other influences involved in what creates the mindset. They come from religion, from cultural differences, from political doctrines, or from different backgrounds. Could be different racial, cultural backgrounds, from parents, from the education system, from ancestors, or any kind of other institutions that people might have been involved in during their life. The key point is that a lot gets picked up in childhood years, when from 0 to 6 or 7, the child is like a sponge and picks up everything that happens around them, picks up maybe beliefs from parents, picks up certain thoughts or beliefs and what's happening to them in the education system. Like when a child is, for example, always told, oh, that's wrong, you're not making it to anything in life if you're not learning more. And that might kind of put some lack of worthiness beliefs into a child. It could be that if a child has very serious involvement with religion or with cults even, that can happen as well. By the way, there'll be a separate episode on cults and sects at some point soon, where I'm going to be diving a little bit more into these subjects. the methods and how they recruit and control their members. So that's a little hint for a future episode. So yeah, what I was saying was if parents are seriously involved with religion, then that might have an effect on the child. In early years, they might be just going along with it, but later, teenage years and so on, they might be then rebelling and find their own way out. Influences can lead also to what is in cognitive behavioral therapy circles called irrational thoughts and perceptions. Those could be catastrophizing, like if you had one really bad event on a day, then the whole day is classed as a really bad day, even though there were some little moments of joy and happiness or moments that were more neutral. Overgeneralization could be, it's a bit similar almost to stereotypes, so I'm throwing them in that category as well. There could be this stereotype or overgeneralization of all white people are oppressors, or all people, all black people, they just come into our country and they take away our housing and our benefits. That's an overgeneralization as well, and a stereotype towards a race. Then we have prejudice. Prejudice could go in a similar direction of stereotypes and so on. Prejudice against disabled people. When disabled people try and look for work, the employers might think, oh, disability, no, we don't want them. Yes, we do have laws and regulations that say that we should get the same opportunities, the same chances of employment. I say we because I am visually impaired, so I am part of what is classed disabled, even though I don't like the word. So we face discrimination still because we are viewed as less able, as less worthy even by some people, and that is just total prejudice. Even they don't know disabled people, they don't interact with disabled people or even refuse to interact with disabled people. And if they don't do that, of course, that's where the prejudice is coming from. Oh, and a big one with regards to irrational thinking and perceptions is mind reading. I knew that they thought could be a part of a sentence of people that are mind reading. Or I knew they would think. I knew they would say. How did you know they would say or what they would think? Judge Judy, she always makes the point of that would be classed as mind reading. That would be classed as you have the operation of someone else's mind, and that is not possible. Well, she explains it a little bit better than I do, but she's always making that point in her sessions when someone is mind reading. So the whole combination of all those influences, thoughts and beliefs, irrational thinking, that shapes your mindset. And your mindset influences your emotions, as in how you feel. The mindset influences your behavior, how you react and respond to others and interact with other people. And it influences your perception of yourself, of others, and the world as a whole. There are two main kinds of mindset that people can have. One is a rather fixed mindset, and one is an open mindset, a growth mindset. And I give you some examples for each side. A fixed mindset is a very inflexible mindset with very inflexible and not very adaptable ways of thinking. People are very wary of change, very resisting to change, and rejecting change as an extreme. People are very fearful of change as well, anxious and fearful. People may have the thinking of I only accept my own opinion because I know I'm right. They may very strictly follow all rules and doctrines they were taught, and others should learn from them rather than they should be open to what others think or any other teachings. Those people also view others and the world from one angle and perspective only, and from the own perspective and perception that they have. They will not allow any other input, any other alternative viewpoints, any alternative thinking. They will only accept, for example, what they hear in the news. Only what they hear in the news is relevant. Only what they hear in the news is correct. And that is their thinking. What others tell them, offering alternatives and so on, is irrelevant to them totally. These people with that fixed mindset may also be of the opinion that I am okay, what I have learned, I don't need to learn or know anymore. That it is okay and enough for them to know what they know. We know things change. We know there is always new information. So that is a very restrictive way of thinking. These people are also unwilling to accept other people who are different, that look different, that speak different, that behave different. They just reject them right away without even considering what there might be in these other people's background. There is no empathy. There is prejudice and stereotyping going on big time. And this inability, this lack of empathy can also show how unable and how unwilling they may be to put themselves into another person's shoes or situation. In a work environment, this fixed mindset approach could also mean that a person says, I only do what I'm supposed to do, what's in my job description, and I stick to that, and I stick to my working hours, no matter if there is still a lot that needs to be done. And they are very unflexible, not willing, not ready to adapt to situations. And they view criticism or feedback, especially if it is constructive feedback, as a personal attack. So that's the people with fixed mindsets. And there is a very stark contrast to the people with a growth mindset, the people with an open mind who can't stop broadening their horizons. Those mindsets are flexible and adaptable with regards to thinking, and they are embracing change and new opportunities. They view change as an opportunity rather than a danger. They appreciate the opinions of others, even if they don't agree with the others' opinions, but they accept the fact that everybody else can have different opinions from them. The people respect different rules or ideas that other people live by. They are accepting of them, even though those rules of those other people might not apply to them or align with the values. The people with the open mindset understand that every story has more than one angle or perspective, and they try and see and understand different perspectives, and they accept different perspectives and are open to listen to them or finding out about alternative opinions and perspectives. They are very curious about what else there could be apart from the narrative or headline they are presented with, for example, by news. The people are very curious about others, about the world, and they are always ready to learn new things, new skills that they might need for a new job. They might like to visit new places, meet new people, and find out how people in other places live, what their cultural background is. For example, they are accepting and curious and respectful of other people who are very different, who may have disabilities, who look different, who behave different, which is when you go to a different country, you might want to study the behavioral etiquette differences that there are to apply them. It's very respectful to do that, to study customs and traditions and any kind of different behaviors in other countries. Like there's a different way of behaving in places like Middle Eastern countries or the Far East. They always kind of stick out to me with regards to how different people live and behave. People with open mindsets, with growth mindsets, they are able and always willing to put themselves into the shoes of others and try and understand why people are in certain situations, what happened to them. So there's a lot of empathy there. In the world of employment, it would mean that a person is always happy to help colleagues and customers or clients, no matter if it means that they have to work longer or that they have to kind of put themselves last whenever it is required. And they view criticism or constructive feedback as an opportunity to improve and develop themselves. I hope the examples gave you a good insight into the kind of different mindsets that you can have. And maybe it's time to ask yourself what kind of mindset you have, and if there is maybe something that you could change in order to become a better person, in order to be more successful and willing to achieve and face new opportunities. It's not only important for the world of employment or business that you have or develop a growth mindset and have an open mind to be more approachable, to be more willing to learn and to be adaptable to changes. It is generally a good thing to change your mindset from a fixed one to a growth mindset. Your mindset can be changed. It is not set in stone. It is not fixed. You may have a fixed mindset right now. And if you do, be aware that your mindset can change, because your brain is always changing anyway. Your brain is not fixed either. We have neuroplasticity, and the neuroplasticity allows us to change who we are, to change our mindset. And in order to change your mindset, I give you a few tips and a few things to remember. One tip would be that it is very useful to be reflective and to do maybe some journaling that can assist you with working on your mindset. When you're in a situation that makes you feel fearful, you can check yourself and reflect if it is really a danger or if it is just a new situation that your brain might not know or be familiar with. It could be that you are very fixed with one opinion, and a challenge for that would be to go and research alternatives to that opinion. Or if you hear a certain news headline that would make you fearful, you could research to see if there's any alternatives, how you can view this news headline, find the alternatives, the alternative stories, the alternative perceptions. Teach yourself to find alternative perceptions. Also, what you can learn from past experiences, you could reflect on those and ask yourself what you could learn from bad experiences to put them in a different light. Be aware that changing your mindset can feel very uncomfortable, and that is because your brain is very used to thinking, behaving, believing things in certain ways, but it can change. So you need to continuously work on that to practice the new ways of thinking. your new beliefs, your new perceptions, so that the brain then can make the much needed new neural connections linked to those new, more open, more flexible, more adaptable beliefs that you want to acquire and to establish in your brain. The continuous work is very important because the brain needs the repetition to establish those new neural connections. Because if you do not do this continuously, then you will fall back into your old ways. This work of changing your mindset will also contribute to improve your self-awareness and heighten your self-awareness. And your self-awareness is very important, as it is also the foundation of emotional intelligence. If you want to know more about emotional intelligence, there are 2 previous episodes on the subject, which are episode 13 and 14. So you can revisit the whole topic of emotional intelligence separately. To improve your self-awareness, it is important to find out what triggers you, what sets you off, makes you fearful, makes you anxious, and explore ways to challenge the fear or the anxiety you might feel in a situation. Is this really a dangerous new person? Is this really a scary new situation? It goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, how the amygdala in our brain, our internal warning system, just kicks off sometimes, even though there is not a real danger. It is just something that it doesn't know yet and hasn't experienced yet. So that is something to consider when you do this kind of work and to challenge fears and anxiety. Another thing I recommend is to teach yourself to be accepting and curious about change, to embrace meeting new people, to go to new places, experience new places, go to networking maybe. For business it is important, but also generally it's great to meet new people and challenge any irrational thinking that you might have about certain people or groups of people. Important to remember, and that's a very important one, you always have the choice. You always have the choice of how or if at all to react to a person, to a comment on social media, for example, to a different situation. You have the choice. There is always a space between something happening, someone saying something, or you reading a comment and you reacting or responding. Make use of that pause. Catch yourself out. Once it happens, once the event happens, once you see the comment, once you hear any words spoken towards you, stop yourself in the moment from firing out a response straight away. Use that pause between the situation, the words, and your own reaction to make the decision if or if not, and if you want to react, how you want to react or respond rather than react. That could make a huge difference and could help you with personal interactions. Last but not least, there is always a way to view things from more angles than just one, from more perspectives. As I said earlier, that is another really important one to remember. There is never only one way of looking at things. Everything has more than one side. Every story, every event. A good example for that might be as well that when in criminal investigations you might have an event happening and you have 4 eyewitnesses, and every eyewitness might give you different perspectives, different points that they remember from the same event. That's another great example of showing how different everybody's brain can work, what kind of different outlook, what kind of different mindset or input they might have to offer. I know I said last but not least, but I remember the very last bonus thing to remember. Watch what you put into your mind. Watch what you read. Watch what you watch on the TV, on videos, on things. Especially if you're more anxiety or fear prone, you might not want to watch things that make your emotional state worse, that make your mental health worse. Stay away from the news, because number one, not everything they tell you is true, because there is always a narrative or agenda that they are basing their journalism on. And number two, there are a lot of alternative sources available. So don't just stick to the mainstream. Go and find alternatives to get a more balanced point of whatever the topic is. So be careful what you watch, what you put into your mind. Be mindful of your mind. And that brings us to the end of our mindset episode of Exploring Brain and Mind. Thank you for listening, and as always, can I ask you to please subscribe and follow the podcast, to download the episode and to share it with someone who might benefit from it, and keep your eyes peeled for forthcoming episodes. There will be a teacher special, a 2-part teacher special coming up soon, and the episodes I talked about earlier about cults and sects and how they attract, recruit and retain their members. It might be triggering for some, and I will add a trigger warning once we're at the episodes. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and thank you again for listening.